The auction house smelled of old wood and desperation. I stood in the back corner, clutching my final gold coins so tightly they left marks on my palm. Around me, wealthy merchants and cruel landowners sat in velvet chairs, laughing and drinking wine as if they were attending a theater performance instead of watching human lives being sold like cattle. My father had been a good man once, before the gambling debts consumed him. Before he lost everything we owned. Before he took his own life and left me with nothing but a crumbling estate and enough gold to fill one small pouch. I had sold every piece of furniture, every painting, every memory of better days. This gold was all that remained, and I had brought it here for one purpose only. I needed workers to save my land. Without help to bring in the harvest, I would lose the estate entirely by winter. The bank had made that very clear. The auctioneer, a fat man with a voice like grinding stones, dragged another prisoner onto the platform. My breath caught in my throat. He was tall and powerfully built, with bronze skin marked by scars that told stories of battles I could only imagine. His black hair hung loose past his shoulders, matted with dirt and dried blood. Iron chains bound his wrists and ankles, but he stood straight, his chin raised in defiance. His dark eyes swept across the crowd with such intensity that several people looked away. He was Lakota. I knew this from the distinctive markings I had seen in books, from the proud bearing that no amount of captivity could break. The auctioneer announced that he had been captured during the Western conflicts, that he was strong and capable of hard labor, that he had killed 3 soldiers before they subdued him. The bidding started low. These frontier prisoners were considered dangerous, unpredictable. Most buyers preferred broken spirits over strong ones. I watched him carefully. While the auctioneer listed his qualities like he was selling a horse, the warrior's eyes found mine across the crowded room. For a moment, everything else disappeared. His gaze held no pleading, no fear, only a fierce intelligence that seemed to look directly into my soul. The current bid stood at 30 gold pieces. My entire pouch contained 42. A plantation owner raised his hand, offering 35. I knew that man by reputation. His workers died in his fields regularly, worked to death and replaced without a second thought. If this warrior went to that plantation, he would be dead within a year, his spirit crushed under brutal labor and constant punishment. My hand lifted before my mind fully registered the decision. 40 gold pieces, I called out, my voice steadier than I felt. The room turned to stare at me. A young woman, alone, bidding on a dangerous warrior with my last coins. The plantation owner narrowed his eyes, studying me with the look of a snake sizing up prey. 45, he counted, smirking. My heart sank. I could not match that bid. The warrior's eyes remained on me, and I thought I saw something flicker in their depths. Understanding, perhaps. Or resignation. The auctioneer raised his hammer. 45 gold pieces, going once. Wait. I stepped forward, pushing through the crowd until I stood before the platform. I pulled out my pouch and emptied every coin into my palm. 42 gold pieces, and this. I removed the only jewelry I still owned, my mother's silver necklace. It had been in our family for 4 generations, the last piece I had sworn never to sell. The silver caught the lamplight, the small sapphire at its center glowing blue. This is worth at least 10 gold pieces, I said firmly. Probably more. My bid stands at 52. The plantation owner stood angrily, but the auctioneer's eyes had already taken on the gleam of greed. He knew the necklace's value. Sold. The hammer came down hard. To the lady in the back. As they removed the warrior's chains and pushed him toward me, his eyes never left my face. I had just spent everything I owned on a man who might kill me in my sleep. What had I done? The wagon rattled along the dirt road as sunset painted the sky in shades of blood and amber. I held the reins with trembling hands, too aware of the silent presence behind me. They had removed the warrior's chains but bound his wrists with rope before releasing him into my custody. He sat in the wagon bed, motionless as a statue, his eyes fixed on the horizon. 3 hours had passed since we left the auction house, and he had not spoken a single word. The road to my estate wound through dense forest, a journey that would take until nightfall. I had made this trip dozens of times, but never had it felt so long, never had I been so conscious of every shadow between the trees, every sound in the underbrush. What did I actually know about this man? Only what I had observed in those brief moments at the auction. He was strong, clearly intelligent, and had killed soldiers. That last fact kept circling my mind like a vulture. I had brought a killer to my home, where I lived alone except for old Martha, the cook who came 3 days a week. There is food in the basket beside you, I finally said, my voice cutting through the silence. And water in the canteen. You must be hungry, No response. Not even a glance in my direction. I tried again. I know you can understand me. The auctioneer said you speak English. Still nothing. His profile remained impassive, carved from stone. Frustration bubbled up inside me. I spent everything I had to buy you. The least you could do is acknowledge my existence. For the first time, he moved. His head turned slowly, and those dark eyes fixed on me with an intensity that made my breath catch. When he finally spoke, his voice was deep and rough from disuse. You think your gold bought my gratitude? The words hit me like a slap. I did not buy you for gratitude. I bought you because that plantation owner would have worked you to death. So instead of dying quickly, I die slowly on your land. He turned away again. How merciful. Anger flared hot in my chest. You know nothing about me or my situation. I need help bringing in the harvest. In exchange, you will have food, shelter, and I will not beat you or chain you at night. That is more than most in your position receive. My position. He laughed, a bitter sound with no humor in it. My position is slave. Pretty words do not change chains into freedom. I know that. My hands tightened on the reins. Do you think I wanted this? Do you think I wanted to spend my last coins on a stranger who clearly hates me? I had no choice. My father left me with nothing but debts and a dying estate. Without help, I lose everything before winter. He was quiet for a long moment. Then we are both prisoners of circumstance. The observation was so unexpected, so perceptive, that I found myself nodding. Yes. I suppose we are. The forest grew darker as we traveled deeper into its heart. An owl hooted somewhere in the canopy above, and the first stars began appearing in the gaps between branches. I lit the wagon's lantern, its warm glow creating a small bubble of light around us. What is your name? I asked softly. Another long silence. Then, Lakota. It means friend to everyone, which my mother thought was funny since I spent most of my childhood fighting. Despite everything, I almost smiled. I am Eleanor. My name means light, which my father thought was ironic since I was born during the worst storm anyone could remember. Eleanor. He said my name carefully, testing its shape. Why did you really buy me? The truth. I considered lying, but something about the darkness and his direct question made me want to be honest. When I saw you on that platform, you looked like you still had your soul. Everyone else they brought out looked broken, defeated. But not you. Your eyes were still alive. Still fighting. I thought if I am going to risk everything on a stranger, I want someone who has not given up. Someone who still believes life is worth living. Lakota was quiet for so long I thought he would not respond. When he did, his voice had changed, become softer somehow. That plantation owner, I heard stories about him in the cells. Men who go to his land do not last 6 months. You knew this. I knew his reputation. So you spent your last gold, your mother's necklace, to save a man you never met. I spent it to save my land, I corrected him. Saving you was just a consequence of that decision. But even as I said the words, I knew they were not entirely true. Something in that moment at the auction had called to me, something I could not explain or rationalize. The wagon crested a hill, and my estate came into view below. In the moonlight, it looked ghostly and sad, the main house dark, the fields overgrown. What had once been a prosperous farm now looked like a monument to failure. This is your land? Lakota asked, and I thought I heard something like surprise in his voice. What remains of it? The west field needs harvesting within 2 weeks, or the crops will rot. The barn needs repairs before winter, and I stopped myself. I am sorry. You do not need to hear my problems. I am here to solve them, am I not? His tone was unreadable. A prisoner who solves problems. That is a new thing. I pulled the wagon to a stop in front of the house. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then I climbed down and walked around to face him. I will not lie to you, Lakota. I cannot pay you. I cannot free you legally, because I do not have the money for the paperwork. All I can offer is fair treatment and a promise that if I save this land, I will find a way to give you your freedom. That is the best I can do. He looked down at me from the wagon, and in the lamplight, his scarred face seemed both fierce and sad. You make promises you cannot keep. Maybe. But I will try to keep them anyway. Something shifted in his expression. He extended his bound wrists toward me. Then cut these ropes, Eleanor, who is named for light. If we are both prisoners here, let us at least pretend we are free. The first week was harder than I had imagined, and I had imagined it would be terrible. Lakota worked from dawn until dusk in the western field, his powerful frame moving through the overgrown wheat with steady determination. I worked beside him, my hands blistering and bleeding despite the gloves, my back screaming in protest with every sheaf we bundled. We spoke little during those long days. The work consumed all our energy, leaving nothing for conversation. But I noticed things about him in the silence. How he never complained despite the brutal pace. How he studied everything around him with careful attention, learning the land as if memorizing a map. How his hands, despite their size and strength, could be surprisingly gentle when handling the damaged crops. On the 8th day, I collapsed. One moment I was binding wheat, the next my vision went white and my knees buckled. I felt myself falling, felt the impact coming, and then strong arms caught me before I hit the ground. When my vision cleared, I was staring up into Lakota's concerned face. He had carried me to the shade of the old oak tree at the field's edge and laid me carefully on the grass. "You pushed too hard," he said, pressing his water canteen to my lips. "You will kill yourself at this pace." I tried to sit up, but my body refused to cooperate. "The harvest will not wait for me to rest. If we do not finish by week's end, the rains will come and ruin everything. The harvest means nothing if you die." His voice was firm, almost angry. "You have eaten barely anything for 3 days. I watch you give most of your food to me while you take only bread and water. This is foolish." Shame heated my cheeks. I had not realized he noticed. "There is not much food left. You need your strength more than I do." "I need you alive," he said flatly. "A dead master means I get sold again, probably to someone worse. So you will rest now, and you will eat, and you will stop this ridiculous martyrdom." Despite my exhaustion, I laughed weakly. "Is this how slaves speak to their masters?" His expression darkened. "Is this how masters treat themselves? Like they are worth less than the dirt they work?" The question hit deeper than I expected. I looked away, toward the half-harvested field and the house beyond, its paint peeling and shutters hanging crooked. "My father killed himself in that house. Did I tell you that? He sat in his study, wrote a letter apologizing for his failures, and shot himself. I found him 3 hours later." Lakota said nothing, but his silence felt different now. Listening, not just waiting. "Everyone said he was weak," I continued, the words spilling out like water from a broken dam. "They said a real man would have faced his debts with honor. But they did not see what I saw. They did not watch him deteriorate day by day, watch the guilt eat him alive. He was not weak. He was just broken." "And you think you must fix what he broke," Lakota said quietly. "You think if you work hard enough, sacrifice enough, you can make his death mean something." Tears burned my eyes. "Is that so wrong?" "It is wrong if you destroy yourself doing it." He sat back on his heels, studying me with those intense dark eyes. "My father was killed when I was 12. Raiders came to our village at night. He fought them to give my mother and sisters time to escape. I watched him die." My breath caught. "Lakota, I am so sorry." He held up a hand. "I spent 5 years after that trying to be him. Trying to be brave enough, strong enough, warrior enough to make his sacrifice matter. I fought in every battle, took every risk. I thought if I could be what he was, his death would have purpose. But then the soldiers came. They captured me because I was so busy being a perfect warrior that I forgot to be smart. I got my war party killed through my arrogance." "That is why you were at the auction," I whispered. "That is why I lived when my brothers died." The pain in his voice was raw. "I learned too late that we cannot fix the past by destroying ourselves in the present. The dead do not want our suffering, Eleanor. They just want us to live." The words settled over me like a blanket, heavy and warm and uncomfortable. We sat in silence for a long time, the afternoon sun filtering through the oak leaves above us. "What happened to your mother and sisters?" I finally asked. "They made it to another village. Last I heard, they were safe." He smiled, but it was sad. "I hope they think I am dead. Better that than knowing I am a slave." "When I free you," I said, "you will go back to them." "When you free me." He shook his head. Always so certain of impossible things. "Not impossible. Difficult, but not impossible." He looked at me for a long moment, then did something unexpected. He pulled a small leather cord from around his neck, worked it over his head, and held it out to me. A white stone hung from the cord, carved with symbols I did not recognize. "What is this?" I asked. "Among my people, when someone saves your life, you owe them a debt. A life debt." His voice became formal, almost ceremonial. You bought me at that auction, but you also saved me from a death I did not want. This stone belonged to my father. It is the only thing of value I still possess. Take it, and know that my soul belongs to you until the debt is paid. Lakota, no. I cannot accept this. You can, and you will. He pressed the cord into my palm, closing my fingers around it. This is not about slavery or ownership. This is about honor. My honor, which is all I have left. When I give my word, I keep it. I swear to you, Eleanor, on my father's memory and my people's traditions, that I will help you save this land. And when you free me, as you promise, I will still be bound to you. Not by law, but by choice. My soul belongs to you forever. The intensity in his eyes made my heart race. That is too much. I only want your help with the harvest. You want to believe that, he said softly. But we both know what really happened at that auction. You saw someone worth saving. And I see someone worth protecting. So take the stone, stubborn woman. Let me have my honor. My fingers closed around the cord. The stone was warm from his body heat, smooth and solid. If your soul belongs to me, then I have a command for you. He raised an eyebrow. Already giving orders? Yes. My command is this: survive. Whatever happens, whatever difficulties come, you must promise to survive. To live. Not just exist, but truly live. Can you swear that to me? For the first time since I had met him, Lakota smiled. Really smiled. It transformed his entire face, made him look younger and less haunted. You drive a hard bargain. I learned from the best creditors in the territory. So? Do you swear? I swear it. He placed his hand over mine, over the stone. I will survive. I will live. And I will help you do the same. The rains came early that year, arriving with a fury that seemed designed to mock our efforts. We had managed to harvest 3/4 of the western field when the storm rolled in, black clouds boiling across the sky like smoke from a fire. The temperature dropped 20 degrees in as many minutes. Inside, I shouted over the rising wind. We have to secure the barn. We ran through the suddenly dark afternoon, rain beginning to fall in heavy drops that felt like stones. The barn doors were swinging wildly, slamming against their hinges with cracks that sounded like gunshots. Lakota reached them first, throwing his weight against one door while I struggled with the other. The wind tore at my clothes and hair, trying to rip me away from the barn. My hands slipped on the wet wood, and I lost my grip. The door swung back, hitting me hard in the shoulder and sending me sprawling into the mud. Lakota appeared above me instantly, his hand reaching down. Get up. The roof is going. He pulled me to my feet with one strong motion, and I saw what he meant. The barn's roof, already weakened by years of neglect, was lifting with each gust. Shingles flew off like dark birds, disappearing into the storm. We managed to get both doors secured and stumbled into the barn's relative shelter. Rain poured through gaps in the roof, creating waterfalls that drummed on the floor. The few animals I still owned, 2 old horses and a milk cow, shifted nervously in their stalls. This is bad, I said, water dripping from my hair. If the roof goes completely, we lose everything stored in here. All the hay for winter, the tools, the preserved food. Lakota was already moving, examining the roof supports with critical eyes. The main beam is cracked. That is where it will fail. Do you have rope? Heavy rope. In the tack room, but what? Get it. All of it. And find anything we can use to brace that beam. We worked frantically as the storm intensified outside. Lakota climbed into the loft despite my protests, tying ropes around the cracked beam and securing them to the stronger supports on either side. I handed up boards torn from old stalls, and he wedged them into place, creating makeshift braces. Thunder crashed so close it shook the barn's foundation. Lightning flashed through the gaps in the walls, turning everything white for frozen moments. The wind screamed like something alive and angry. Eleanor. Lakota's shout cut through the noise. The north wall. It is coming down. I spun around and saw the barn's oldest wall bowing inward, pushed by wind that seemed impossible. The boards creaked and groaned, splinters shooting from joints that could not hold much longer. Without thinking, I ran to the wall and threw my weight against it, as if my 120 pounds could somehow match the storm's force. It was absurd, hopeless, but I could not just watch everything collapse. Then Lakota was beside me, adding his strength to mine. Together we braced against the wall, feeling it shudder with each gust. This will not hold, he shouted. It has to. Eleanor, We need to leave. The barn is not worth your life. It is. I shouted back, surprising myself with the vehemence. It is worth it. This barn, this land, it is all I have. If I lose this, I have nothing. I am nothing. His eyes locked with mine, and I saw understanding there. Not agreement, but understanding. Then we hold together, he said simply. For what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, we stood against that wall while the storm tried to kill us. My muscles screamed. My hands bled where splinters had torn the skin. But every time I thought I could not hold on for one more second, I felt Dakota's presence beside me, steady and strong, and somehow I found the strength to continue. Gradually, impossibly, the wind began to ease. The roar diminished to a howl, then to a moan, then to a whisper. Rain still fell, but without the driving force behind it. The barn held. We both slid down the wall to sit in the wet hay, gasping for breath. My entire body shook with exhaustion and leftover fear. Thank you, I managed. For staying. Dakota looked at me, and something in his expression made my heart skip. I told you. My soul belongs to you. Where you stand, I stand. Even against impossible storms. Especially against those. He reached over and took my bleeding hand in his, examining the damage with gentle fingers. You are the most stubborn woman I have ever met. Is that a compliment? I have not decided yet. But he was almost smiling as he pulled a relatively clean cloth from his pocket and wrapped it around my hand with careful precision. You should know something, Eleanor. That night after the auction, when you cut my ropes and showed me to the workers' cabin, I planned to escape. I was going to wait until you slept, then run for the territories. My breath caught. What stopped you? I went to the house to steal food for the journey. Your window was open. He did not look at me as he continued. I saw you sitting at your father's desk, crying. Just sitting there alone in the dark, with papers spread out showing all the debts, and you were crying so quietly, like you were afraid someone might hear. And I thought, here is someone who has lost everything, just like me. Here is someone still fighting, even though the fight seems hopeless. How can I abandon that? Tears stung my eyes again, mixing with the rain on my face. You stayed because you felt sorry for me. No. He finally looked up, and the intensity in his gaze took my breath away. I stayed because I recognized you. In my culture, we believe in kindred spirits. People whose souls are made from the same fire. When I saw you that night, I knew. You are my kindred, Eleanor. Maybe that is why your bid was the one that won. Maybe that is why, of all the people in that auction house, your eyes were the ones I could not look away from. Dakota. I did not know what to say, how to respond to such raw honesty. You do not have to say anything, he continued. I just wanted you to know. You think you are nothing without this land, but you are wrong. The land is just dirt and buildings. You are the fire that gives it meaning. Even if we lost everything tomorrow, you would still be that fire. You would still be worth fighting for. The storm outside had gentled to steady rain, creating a soft sound on what remained of the roof. In the dim light filtering through the barn's gaps, with wet hay beneath us and the scent of rain-soaked wood all around, something fundamental shifted between us. I moved closer, letting my head rest against his shoulder. He stiffened in surprise, then carefully, as if I might break, wrapped his arm around me. We are a strange pair, I said softly. A disgraced daughter and an enslaved warrior, holding up a barn against a storm that should have killed us. Strange, he agreed. But alive. But alive, I echoed. We sat like that until the rain stopped, two souls forged in the same fire, finding warmth in each other's presence while the world outside slowly returned to calm. 6 weeks later, everything changed on an ordinary Tuesday morning. Dakota and I had developed a rhythm in those weeks, working the land together during the day and sharing simple meals in the evening. The harvest was complete, stored safely in the repaired barn. The crops had been good, better than I had dared hope. Old Martha had even commented that the estate looked alive again, though she gave me knowing looks when Dakota was nearby. I tried not to think about what those looks meant. Tried not to think about how my heart jumped when he smiled at me, or how the evenings felt empty when he returned to the workers' cabin. He was still, legally, my property. I could not afford the freedom papers yet, despite my promise. The harvest money would barely cover the immediate debts. That Tuesday morning, I was working in the study, trying to make the numbers add up to something less disastrous, when I heard horses approaching. Many horses. Dakota appeared in the doorway, his face grim. Riders coming. Military, from the looks of them. My stomach dropped. I moved to the window and saw a dozen soldiers in federal uniforms, led by an officer whose insignia marked him as a captain. They stopped in front of the house, and the captain dismounted with practiced ease. The knock on the door came hard and official. "Stay in the kitchen," I told Dakota. "Do not say anything. Eleanor. Please. Trust me." He disappeared reluctantly as I opened the door. The captain removed his hat, but his eyes were cold. "Miss Eleanor Hartwell?" "Yes. How can I help you, Captain?" "Captain Richard Morrison. I am here about a fugitive, a Lakota warrior who escaped from a military transport 6 months ago. We have reason to believe you purchased this individual at auction." My mind raced. I purchased a worker at auction, yes. But I was told he had been captured legally during the conflicts. He was captured legally. Then he killed 2 guards during transfer and escaped. He remained at large for 3 weeks before local authorities recaptured him and, apparently without checking his background properly, sold him at auction. The captain's smile was thin and unpleasant. "The federal government wants him back, Miss Hartwell. He is to face trial for the murder of those guards." "Trial?" The word came out sharper than I intended. "Or execution. That will be determined by a military court. Where is he?" I felt Dakota's presence before I saw him. He stepped into the hallway, his face calm but his eyes burning with resignation. "I am here." "No," I said, stepping between them. "You cannot just take him." "Actually, Miss Hartwell, I can. He is property of the federal government, illegally sold. Your purchase is void. You will be refunded your money, of course." "I do not want a refund. He has done nothing wrong here. He has worked honestly, caused no trouble, harmed no one." The captain's expression softened slightly. "I understand you have become attached to your purchase. But this man is dangerous. He killed 2 soldiers in cold blood." "Did he?" I turned to Dakota. "Tell me what happened. The truth." Dakota met my eyes, and I saw the pain there. We were being transported in a wagon. Chained together, 15 of us. One of the other prisoners, he was sick. Dying. He begged the guards for water. They laughed and poured it on the ground in front of him. When he reached for it anyway, they beat him. Beat him until he stopped moving. His voice remained steady, but his hands clenched into fists. I broke my chains. I stopped them. One of the guards drew his gun. I took it from him. In the struggle, it fired. Both guards died. I freed the others and ran. That is what happened. "So you killed them defending someone else," I said. "The law does not care about the details," Captain Morrison said. 2 federal soldiers are dead. Someone has to answer for that. "Then I will testify," I said, a desperate plan forming. "I will come to the trial and testify about his character, about how he has worked here. Surely that must count for something." The captain shook his head. "Miss Hartwell, I admire your loyalty, but $20,000. Everyone froze. I had not meant to say it, but now that the words were out, I committed to them fully. "I beg your pardon," the captain said. "The federal government wants compensation for its loss, yes? 2 soldiers, a prisoner, the trouble of tracking him down. I will pay $20,000 in restitution. In exchange, you leave him here, in my custody. I take full responsibility for his actions." Dakota grabbed my arm. "Eleanor, no. You do not have that kind of money. This will destroy you." "I will find it," I said, not looking at him. "I will mortgage the estate, sell whatever I must. But I will find it." Captain Morrison studied me with new interest. "You would bankrupt yourself for a slave?" "He is not a slave. Not anymore. I am buying his freedom, Captain. $20,000. Do we have an agreement?" The captain was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I would need authorization from my superiors for such an arrangement. It could take weeks." "Then take weeks. But you do not take him today." Something in the captain's expression shifted, became almost respectful. "You are either very brave or very foolish, Miss Hartwell. I am not certain which. Can it not be both?" He almost smiled. "I will send a telegram to my commanding officer. But understand, if approval is denied, or if this man causes any trouble before then, I will return with enough soldiers to burn this estate to the ground if necessary. Do you understand?" "Perfectly." After they left, Dakota and I stood in the hallway in silence. Finally, he exploded. "What were you thinking? $20,000? Eleanor, that is insane. What was I supposed to do? Let them take you to be executed? Yes. He grabbed my shoulders, forcing me to look at him. You were supposed to let me go. You were supposed to save yourself, your land, your future. Not throw it all away for someone who— He stopped abruptly. Someone who what? I challenged. Someone whose soul belongs to me? Someone who stood beside me and held up a barn wall against a storm? Someone who has become— I paused, heart pounding. Someone who has become essential to me? His hands tightened on my shoulders. Eleanor. I love you, I said, the words rushing out before I could stop them. I know it is madness. I know all the reasons it is impossible. But I love you, Dakota. And I will not watch you die when I have the power to prevent it. For a heartbeat, he just stared at me. Then he pulled me against him, holding me so tightly I could barely breathe. You impossible, stubborn, magnificent woman, he whispered against my hair. Do you know what you have done? Do you understand what you are risking? I understand that some things are worth any risk. He pulled back enough to look at my face, and his eyes were bright with unshed tears. My soul belonged to you from the moment you bid on me at that auction. I told you it was a life debt, but that was only part of the truth. My soul recognized yours, Eleanor. Across that crowded room, despite everything between us, my soul knew it had found its home. Then we will find a way, I said fiercely. We will pay the $20,000 somehow. We will get you legally freed. And then I will still be Lakota, and you will still be white, he said gently. The world will not accept us. Then we will make our own world. Here, on this land we saved together. Let them talk. Let them judge. We will know the truth. He kissed me then, soft and careful, like I was something precious that might break. When we pulled apart, he rested his forehead against mine. $20,000, he repeated. Where will you even start? I have no idea, I admitted. But I will figure it out. We will figure it out. Together. Together, he agreed. Over the following weeks, I sold everything that was not essential. Furniture, paintings, my father's book collection, even some of the land itself. Martha helped me contact every wealthy family in 3 territories, offering services, requesting loans, begging for work. It was humiliating and exhausting and seemed impossible. But slowly, incredibly, the money began to accumulate. $1,000 here, $500 there. Some people helped out of pity. Others seemed moved by the story of a woman fighting to save someone she loved. A few even seemed to respect the madness of it. 3 months later, Captain Morrison returned. I met him on the porch with a bank draft for $20,000. Every cent I could raise, borrowed against the estate's future for the next 10 years. The captain took the draft, examined it, then looked at me with something like wonder. You actually did it. I told you I would. Yes, but I did not believe you. He pulled official papers from his jacket. These are his freedom documents, signed by my commanding officer. Dakota of the Lakota people is hereby released from all federal custody and obligation. He is, in the eyes of the law, a free man. I took the papers with shaking hands, barely able to believe they were real. Thank you, Captain. Do not thank me, Miss Hartwell. I just witnessed the most expensive purchase of freedom I have ever seen. He paused, then added quietly, for what it is worth, I think he is a lucky man. Not many people inspire that kind of loyalty. After he left, I found Dakota in the western field, working despite the official end of his obligation. I walked out to him slowly, the freedom papers clayed against my chest. It is done, I said. You are free. He turned, and the look on his face was everything. Hope and disbelief and joy all mixed together. Free. Completely and legally free. You can go anywhere, do anything. Your sisters, you could go find them, return to your people. He kissed me, cutting off my words. When he pulled back, he was smiling. My soul belongs to you forever, remember? I swore it. Where would I go? This is my home. You are my home. Are you certain? Because I will understand if. I am certain. He took my hand, the one wearing his father's stone on a cord around my wrist. I told you once we were both prisoners of circumstance. But now we are free, Eleanor. Both of us. Free to choose our own path. And you choose this? You choose me? Every day for the rest of my life, he said. If you will have me. I laughed and cried at the same time, throwing my arms around him.
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. We stood there in that field, two souls forged in the same fire, having found each other against all odds. The land stretched around us, scarred but alive, struggling but surviving. Just like us. I had used my last gold to buy a warrior at auction. He had sworn his soul belonged to me forever. And somehow, impossibly, we had turned that transaction into something neither of us had expected. We had found freedom. We had found home. We had found love. And that, I thought as he held me close, was worth more than any amount of gold in the world.